let's talk about the organization of the logbook. So you review the logbooks, makes sense to you digitally, remotely. Now we have to actually show up at the jet and go through the manual logs. And there are a couple of things that you want to be mindful of when you're looking at these logs. Basically, they're going to be binders. They can be these leather-bound kind of smaller things, when it was earlier on. There could be, maybe just 1 or 2 binders. There could be 4. It really kind of depends on how maintenance was tracked through the life of the aircraft. Obviously, how old it is going to make a difference. So you're going to find 4 kind of categories of information when you arrive. Number 1, you're going to find manuals. Sometimes people keep all the manuals for the avionics and stuff like that. You're going to find flight logs, especially if it was on a 135 at some point. So these are literally just tracking each and every flight. And then you're going to get into the logbooks themselves. You're going to have 1 logbook for the airframe, and you're going to have 1 or 2 logbooks, or 3 logbooks if we're looking at a Falcon, for the engines. Each engine's going to have its own logbook. Now, there's a couple things you want to keep in mind. Number 1, when it comes to the engine logbooks, it's not uncommon that engine has been on different airframes throughout its life. So you want to find the story of the engine. Maybe it started as a one version of the engine and got upgraded to, like, for example, a JT15D1 engine. Maybe it got upgraded to a -1A engine. Maybe it was a -1B, got converted to a -1A engine. So what's the story of that engine? Where did it start off at? And what you're really looking for in the engine logbooks are the last overhaul entry and the last hot section entry. That's going to, you just want to make sure that those maintenance items were done. So look for the last engine overhaul entry, the last hot section entry. That's also going to give you, usually those entries themselves will have a component list. Talk about life limited parts, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. But it's going to give you kind of a overview of the health of the engine and things of that. Other things you can look for, if soap analysis were done to check and make sure that the engine's not burning any metal. You can find borescopes that might have been done that might have told you stuff. Replacement of blades, if a blade got chipped for some reason, that could, indicate maybe FOD. Maybe they sucked up a nut on the runway and it just chipped a blade. You can take a look at that. So basically that's kind of what you're looking for. And what you're going to notice as you're going through any of the logbooks is, some mechanics are using the Textron, form to fill out. Some are using like invoices of their own. So you're going to see, it's going to be an interesting story to kind of look through and see where this engine has been. The other thing you want to be mindful of, sometimes, depending on who did the maintenance, if you're looking for a specific entry like a hot section or overhaul entry and you can't find it in the engine logbooks, look in the airframe logbooks, and that can give you a little bit of the story as well. Sometimes they just put it in the airframe because that's how that mechanic organized stuff. You put everything in one logbook. The other thing you want to be mindful of are dates, hours, because if you have to find something, you might be able to do some detective work. Like, okay, there was a overhaul done at 3,500 hours, and we can't find the next overhaul at 7,000 hours. Well, you go looking through and you see in the airframe logbook, in the engine logbook, you see it had 7,100 hours in 1999. Okay, well, now that somewhere, earlier than 1999, there's got to be a logbook entry for that second overhaul. So you can go through the airframe logbooks, you can go through the engine logbooks, you can use the dates to kind of narrow down, use the dates and the total time to narrow down where you might find the log entry that you're looking for. You're not just aimlessly looking through, and trying to find something. So that's the engine logbooks. The airframe logbooks are going to have your major inspections, your C checks, your phase 1 through 4 inspections, phase 5 inspections. So that's where you're going to find, all of that stuff is in the airframe logbook. And the other thing to notice is that the aircraft total time is probably going to differ from the engine times. So if the aircraft has 7,000 hours on it, the engine could have 10,000 hours on it. It could have 5,000 hours on it. A lot of the legacy jets have mix and match components, and so it's not uncommon that the airframe and the engine times don't match. It's also not uncommon for the engine times themselves, the right engine, the left engine, to not match either, because they might have been mixed and matched throughout the years. Also, fun little tip just so you're aware, the number 1 engine is the left engine. The number 2 engine is the right engine. So as you're looking through, sometimes they'll refer to it left engine, right engine. Sometimes it'll be 1 and 2. Obviously, you want to make sure you have the right serial numbers. That's kind of how the engines are kept. So make sure that when you're looking in the engine logbook, you're looking at the correct engine that you want to look for based on the serial number, not just based on position, because that engine could have been positioned different places. So, always looking at the top, kind of just scanning for, making sure you have the right serial number as well. So that's kind of the logbooks and like an overview of the organization of the logbooks.